Yeah, DBDR said it best. Women are just better at making friends and having social circles than men. What's up, everybody? Today I wanted to talk about this article I found on Scientific American that I really wanted to talk about because of the dating market and all that I've been talking about recently. It's called Romantic Hopes. Men actually crave romantic relationships more than women do. I believe it was Men Need to Be Heard who said that men didn't need or want as much. Tim Pool and others have said something about how men don't need women as much as women need men. I'm just repeating what they said here. But before we get into the article and see what they have to say about why men actually want romantic relationships more than women do, be sure to give this video a like. Comment your predictions for what Scientific American has to say about this, and subscribe for daily videos. Really quick, just gotta acknowledge there's no author specified for this article. Well, let the record show I looked. Do you think women are more invested in romance than men are? Rom-coms, TV commercials, and women's magazines may reinforce this stereotype, but psychological research is increasingly telling a different story. Multiple studies have suggested that men may actually place a greater importance on romantic relationships. Now, researchers have identified a key behavioral factor that could explain this surprising difference. Yeah, I actually watched this YouTube video from some woman who's about 7 years younger than me. I'm 28. She was 21 going on 22, who talked about how she wanted romantic love. And the title was, let me pull it up so I can show it to you. I Want to Be in Love by Three Very Day is a Good Day. I think I'll do a separate video reacting to her points if I decide so. But right now, let's focus on what Scientific American has to say about this. I just want to say that men do think about women quite a bit when it comes to this. I mean, look at all the dating horror story videos out there on YouTube, or the back and forth on the dating market about how dating's been destroyed. Yeah, there are some men who are focusing on other things, but there are plenty of compilations out there of women frustrated with men not approaching anymore and such. But I digress. Drawing on more than 50 studies of mixed gender relationships, researchers at Humboldt University of Berlin, the University of Minnesota, and Vrije University Amsterdam proposed that men, compared with women, expect to gain more from being in a romantic relationship and are thus more motivated to find a partner. According to multiple anonymous surveys, men also tend to experience greater mental and physical health benefits from being in a relationship, are less likely to initiate breakups, and struggle more with the emotional toll of a breakup, the researchers wrote in Behavioral and Brain Sciences. I can think of a couple reasons for their reasons or for the benefits and such. First of all, gaining more from being in a romantic relationship is probably a lot about clout among guy friends and then not being seen as a single inkwell loser by others. Personally, I do not think you are a loser if you are single. I want to make that very clear. I always think of potential romantic relationships as a nice little bonus, the icing on the cake, as David from How to Beast puts it. You know, it really completes the cake, but without it, it's still a really good cake. Anyway, in regards to greater mental and physical health benefits, that's probably because a girlfriend or a wife would pester their man to go see a doctor over something like that, or something concerning. Whereas the men, without being prompted by that, would probably let things that you might want to go see a doctor about go unchecked. Now, obviously, it's kind of a archetype, or you could call it a stereotype, but I've seen it in my personal life. Observed I've observed men push back on the idea of getting something worrying looked at, or saying that it's not as big a deal comparatively speaking. I used to be a bit more like that, where I was less likely to get something looked at, but now that I'm paying for my own health insurance through the state connector, I'm like, I may as well use it and make sure that everything's okay. Like with my back early in April. Yeah, that's the last time that I was there. Wow, I just realized I went almost the entire month of May with a. No, wait, I went to the optometrist in May. But yeah, I can kind of see why the idea is a girlfriend or wife, let's just say, encourages regular checkups and such and not skipping medical appointments. As for being less likely to initiate breakups and struggling with the emotional toll of it, okay, the lack of interest in initiating the breakup probably comes from the old adage, it's cheaper to keep her, or not having as many options compared to women. I mean, consider dating apps. You can literally find all kinds of videos proving that they have more options. Women are also, culturally speaking, they are encouraged more to find what they want and not take as much crap compared to men, historically speaking. And yeah, generally speaking, oh boy, this is a lot harder to be a fence sitter on than I thought. But yeah, as for struggling with the emotional toll of a breakup, either men or women can go through the emotional lows of that. The feel like they're living in a hallelujah montage from a Shrek movie. The point in every Shrek movie where that's considered the low point with some sad song playing over it. In the case of the original Hallelujah, that's why I call it the Hallelujah montage. But yeah, I've heard from other people that men can more easily live without women, consider compared to women being able to live without men. I don't have the statistics in front of me or anything like that, so don't quote me on that for now. If you have, if you can think of hard scientific proof, if it doesn't come up later in the article, please let me know in the comments down below. Anyway, back to the article. Elaine Hone, who studies social psychology at the University of Toronto, says these observations align with a trend she has seen in her own research. Single men are typically less happy with their singlehood than single women, even across different Western and Eastern cultural contexts. The authors of the new paper suggest that men's greater reliance on romantic relationships stems from differences in emotional expression, which can often be traced back into childhood. One study in the analysis found that U.S. adults view 3-year-old boys who are described as sensitive and emotional as less likable than boys with stereotypically masculine traits. Other studies showed that parents use more language related to emotions with daughters and reward them for expressing sadness and fear, while punishing sons for the same behavior. From an early age, boys are discouraged from expressing vulnerability, says Humboldt University social and developmental psychologist Iris Waring, co-lead author of the new paper. And the social norm continues into adulthood, she explains. This cultural standard makes men less likely to seek emotional support from friends and family compared with women. As a result, men rely more heavily on their romantic partners to fulfill these needs. Women, in contrast, seek emotional support from a wider social network and thus tend to be less dependent on romantic relation partners. Yeah, DBDR said it best. Women are just better at making friends and having social circles than men. Mariko Visserman, a psychologist at the University of Sussex in England, says the review does a wonderful job in explaining how gendered norms and experiences early in life can set the stage for the differences between men and women's relationship benefits and vulnerabilities later on. The key takeaway is that we all need to feel embedded in a supportive network of relationships, Visserman says. She adds that it's wise to invest in relationships beyond romantic partnerships, both to have a support system when romantic relationships go through a rough patch or ends, and to meet various emotional needs. An important implication of these findings is the need to foster a culture in which men feel encouraged to build strong, emotionally supportive friendships outside of romance, Hohen says. She notes that this means challenging traditional gender norms that stigmatize male vulnerability and promoting the value of more meaningful friendships for men. And I think this is the name of the author, Clarissa Brincat. Okay, so I think we finally found an author to credit. But yeah, trying to think of what to say here. I'd argue that male vulnerability is healthy in small doses. Vulnerability in general. The problem is when we get too vulnerable. Like, if you're having a hard time, okay. But at a certain point, I don't know. I guess we still have the suck it up, buttercup mentality going on. Now, I guess I've never really had a problem with being vulnerable, at least to an extreme degree. Like, I can be a little vulnerable, which is actually what my high school wellness teacher, health teacher said was what intimacy really was. It's not really so much the stuff you see in the spicy content. It's more about being able to be vulnerable and raw with people. Like, I think I've shown some vulnerability here and there in my videos. Obviously, I don't go all in on being vulnerable, but I do express some things. As for meaningful friendships, yeah, we should probably do better on that. And I think we all need to get out a little more and see friends IRL. No, why am I saying that? I should say in real life. Sorry, internet talk has gotten to my brain. But yeah, Visserman is right about that we need a supportive network of relationships. It's like I was saying in the video about not depending too much on one person. I already forgot what I said in that video. I think it was something about that. I think the takeaway going back to the Twilight new moon scene that I showed you a couple of videos ago, assuming it wasn't a copyright issue and I had to take it out of the video. Going back to that, I just want to say that this is why you don't put all your eggs in one basket. Yeah, if you have a romantic partner, cool. But you shouldn't make her the center of your universe. I've got my Henriotti for going out and doing things. I think one should always have some friends so that they can, even if it's just for like practical things, it's good to have friends that you can connect with, hang out with, and maybe try new things with. So, on that note, I think I'm going to leave it here for the video. You comment down below if you're whether you're a man who agrees with all of this. Women's perspectives are welcome too. I want to know if you've got that sense from guys you've dated or anything like that. Give this video a like, subscribe for daily videos, and I'll see you soon.